All right, what is up, my friends? Welcome to the Modern Horizons 2 set review, complete set review. Of course, if you've seen my set reviews before, great. If you haven't, well, I'm going to let you know what's going on here. So, full set review. We do every card in the set, every single one. Obviously, spend some more time on some than others, but for the most part, we do every single card. We do limited and constructed. The last Modern Horizons limited format was an all-time great limited format. I played it at Pro Tour Barcelona or Mythic Championship Barcelona. I played it a lot. It was a really, really good format. And of course, we're going to see a huge shift in Modern because a lot of new cards and old cards are coming too. So again, this is a set that's only going to be legal in Modern and older. So this is not a standard set, a non-standard set. Okay, it's very important to note in case you're an arena player or a little newer to the game. These cards won't be in arena, and this is more for the boomers, if you will. This is for Modern, this is for Legacy, Commander, and so on and so forth. And we have quite a set here. Honestly, we have quite a set. Before we start, I want to let everyone know a few things that are going on. Mog Monday Showdown is going to be on Monday. This coming Monday, Monday the 7th, I think. And it is going to be 8th. Maybe it's the 8th. Whatever. Next Monday. And I have challenged Aspiring Spike to a Mog Monday Showdown, of course. 3 matches. Normally, it's 3 different formats, but we're doing Modern. And I was planning on doing Modern with Aspiring Spike anyway, but Modern Horizons obviously makes it even more exciting. It's going to be my 3 different Goblin decks versus Aspiring Spike's 3 different Modern brews. That's going to be this coming Monday. Also, next week, I'll be doing my 10 new brews. 10 new brews. Usually, I do 10 new brews for a new set. And it's usually like, I play 5 games with each deck on Arena. I decided to go all out for Modern Horizons 2. I've wanted to do more Modern content. I haven't really had time. So I'm taking the whole freaking week. We're going to do 10 new brews, 10 Modern leagues, complete leagues, 5 matches each. Going to go all week. We're going to go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 to 4 leagues a day, 10 new brews. I'm pumped. You should be too. I want to hear what you want to see. All right, so YouTube comments, Twitch comments. Let me know what all the brews are. So we got Monday is going to be Aspiring Spike, Mog Monday Showdown, Goblins versus Modern brews. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 10 new brews. It's going to be a crazy, crazy week of Modern, all right? I love you all. Thanks for listening to me spiel all that. And let's get started right here, right now with White. Crab Gone Barry, thanks to resub. Appreciate it.
Love the content. KP it up. We want squirrels.
We want squirrels? Thanks, Siri. We want squirrels. That's green. All right, we're starting off with White. You always start with White because it's kind of like the opening band because the white cards always suck. So if you miss it, it's not really that big of a deal. So let's go with Abiding Grace. 3 mana for an enchantment. Beginning of your end step, choose one. You gain 1 life, or you return a creature card mana value 1 from your graveyard to the battlefield. This card might look innocent. This card is very, very similar. Of course, I'm a boomer. I've been playing Magic for 20 years, so all the old references are all my wheelhouse. This is very similar to the card that I forget the name of. It foretold for 6 mana to return a 1-drop, or cast to return 3 1-drops. And I was used with Martyr of Sands to gain a lot of life. This effect is much more powerful than it looks. Martyr of Sands, of course, a 1-drop, you pay 2 and sack it, you can gain a bunch of life. Proclamation of Rebirth, that's the card. And this does that every turn without needing to foretell. So this is a real card. It might look like a silly card. The 1 life failsafe. It's like a safety rider text because it allows you to do things if the graveyard's empty. But it kind of looks like, so innocent, only 1 life. But recurring a 1-drop every turn is very, very big. Martyr does not exile itself. That's not how the card works. So Soul Sisters, Martyr, will that be good enough in Modern? Maybe not. Maybe. But this is definitely a very reasonably powerful card. Get back things like Death Shadow, things like that. So this is an exciting one. Limited, probably not. Too narrow for limited. But forecast, not foretell, forecast. So this card's pretty cool. Kind of a cute one. Probably won't be a huge player, but definitely a card to keep an eye on. This is a card that can definitely make a splash in decks like that. Martyr Sands, 3-minute Spectre every turn. Ooh, that's nice. They'll investigate every turn. So definitely a cool one. Not for limited, but a possible constructed build around. And there already are a lot of tools for Martyr of Sands in constructed. If Burn gets popular, this could be a card for it. Pretty cool. Up next is Artbound Javelineer. Now, of course, this set, just like Modern Horizons before it, just like Time Spiral, has a ton of mechanics in it. A ton. This is a complicated set. We're going to see all sorts of mechanics over the course of history. And one of the themes for both red and white is modular. Modular is a mechanic that says a creature comes into play with X counters on it, with X being the modular number. And whenever it dies, you can move that counter to a different artifact creature. So, Artbound Worker being one of the classic 1-drops. Saw a lot of play in Standard. That Artbound Worker was a 1-mana 1/1 with modular 1. That's it. There's a bunch of cards that are a lot better than Artbound Worker. So this one here is taps to remove X counters from Javelineer to do X damage to attacking or blocking creature. So unfortunately, very limited in what it can target. If this thing can target anything, this card would be pretty awesome because when it dies, oh, never mind. You can modular onto it, but if it removes a counter, it won't modular. But definitely more of a limited card. Seems kind of honestly. The fact that it's an onboard trick, you can play around it, not super exciting. So if it can target actual anything, this card would have a chance in constructed, but because it can, it won't. And in limited, I'm not really convinced this card is super great. If it could either not remove the counters and have the drawback of attackers or blockers, sure. Or if it could deal damage to anything, sure. But as is, not a very exciting card. Not a very exciting card. Up next is Artbound Mouser. This card is exciting. So this card is essentially just a white Artbound worker, but it has lifelink. And as we know from cards like Vault Scourge, lifelink is a really good mechanic to have on a cheap card when cards like Cranial Plating exist. Steel Overseer, Venerated Loxodon. These cards that can make this synergy card a lot bigger. And this is a really awesome one, honestly. Lifelink modular one. I'm sure I'll build a Loxobots deck at some point playing this card. Of course, Mox Opal being gone kind of sucks. But this is one to watch. This is it's simple, it's light. It's not a game-breaking crazy card. But for an affinity deck, this card it's better than Vault Scourge, but it's a card for sure. Limited, same idea. You got to pile counters on a card. This one's very, very reasonable to do that. So kind of a cool card. Artbound Mouser. Up next is Artbound Prototype. 2 mana for a 2/2 modular, and that's it. So nice vanilla common for limited. I don't know how good the archetypes are. Of course, we haven't played the set yet, but if the artifacty Arcboundy deck is a good limited deck, this is a good bread and butter 2-drop for it, of course. And constructed, you should probably just play Artbound Ravager, just realistically. Up next is Barbed Spike. 2 mana for an equipment. Comes into play, make a 1/1 colorless Thopter and attach Barbed Spike to it. Creature gets +2/+0. A +1/+0, equipped for 2. This is a really solid limited card. This is essentially just a artifact creature, 2/1 flyer for 2, which is super reasonable, honestly. It's also an equipment if the creature dies, and it's 2 artifacts. If you're counting artifacts for affinity, this is 2 artifacts in 1 card. Super awesome. Super cool card. Definitely really, really good limited card. Whether you're just looking for a reasonable beater, because a 2/1 flyer for 2 is just solid, and then having the ability to leave something behind. Ancestral Blade was a pretty cool card in a previous set. Very high pick, very solid common. So gonna be a very, very good limited card here. Definitely make sure you're realizing this counts for 2 for affinity. It's 2 artifacts. Constructed, probably not. It is modern, If this card was legal in standard, though, this card could definitely see play. It's definitely it's like good enough in that range. Not really good enough for modern, but definitely a cool card. Up next is Blacksmiths Skill. 1 mana instant. Target permanent gains hexproof and indestructible to end of turn. So that's pretty decent by itself. Not great, but decent. And then if it's an artifact creature, it gets +2/+2 to end of turn. So kind of like your classic limited trick. Your 1 mana pump spell, a little bit of upside. Thanks to Raid Sonic, I appreciate that. Not constructed playable, obviously. You want your affinity cards to be cranial plating, not little cheap tricks, but kind of a cool limited card for sure. Reasonable. All mana tricks are nice. It's just an okay draft card. Nothing super exciting. It is target permanence, that is true, but it's still not like super exciting. Yeah, I do better with this in constructed, in modern especially. Up next is Blossoming Calm. 1 white for an instant. You gain hexproof until your next turn. Then you gain 2 life. It's got Rebound. Rebound's a mechanic where when you cast a Rebound card, if it resolves, it goes into exile and you cast it again next turn. So this card is it's kind of a cool card against burn, kind of a cool card against things like Thoughtseize, but probably just worse because it's just, there are better sideboard cards for white decks against burn, things like Timely Reinforcements or Firewalker. So even though this is very good against burn, they go to Lightning Bolt you Blossoming Calm, counter it, gain 2 life, and then gain 2 life next turn. That's a good swing, but just play Core Firewalker, right? So it's a decent sideboard card against burn. It is possible that if you're playing a deck where you can't really afford to play Core Firewalker, but I don't think this is good enough as far as a burn hate card. It is kind of cool that you can stop Thoughtseize as well. It is 2 triggers for a prowess kind of thing, but it's more of a reactive card, so not really good enough. Kind of a cute card, but and then limited, you can't really play this card. Doesn't really do that much. So kind of cute, probably doesn't get there. It's cute, though. It's cute. You know, it's 2 spells in 1. Up next is Break Ties. 2 mana for an instant. Choose one. Disenchant or exile a card in the graveyard. And has Reinforce. Very, very popular mechanic, Reinforce. Reinforce for 1, pay 1. So you can pay 1, discard this card, and put a counter on target creature. That's honestly pretty good by itself. I mean, 1 mana to do that is honestly kind of reasonable. And this card also is a disenchant and also graveyard hate. So definitely not a constructed card, of course. Way too inefficient. But for limited, this is the kind of card that does everything. It's kind of cool. Obviously, putting counters on modular creatures in limited is pretty cool. So kind of a cool draft common. Probably not a card you want all the time, but a reasonable card that does a lot of different things. A lot of artifacts in the set, pretty useful. So kind of a cool draft common. It's a fillery card, but kind of cool. Up next is... Oh, boy. Is it Capria Chrome or Capria Chrome? I like Capria Chrome. I'm going to say Capria Chrome. Capria Chrome, 4 mana for a 2/2 flash vigilance, and it has Devour Artifact 1. This is a new mechanic, essentially based off Devour. Devour is a mechanic where it comes into play. You get to eat other things to make it bigger. This can only eat artifacts. So Devour Artifact 1 comes into play. You can sacrifice any number of artifacts, and the creature enters the battlefield with that many plus the most counters on it. So obviously, if you're playing a draft deck with lots of modular stuff, this can be really, really cool. You know, you attack with all your modular creatures, they make your blocks. You play this, sack the right ones, move counters. Very, very complicated card. A lot of combat stuff. Affinity back in the day, for those that don't remember, Artbound Ravager, Artbound Worker, a lot of modular things happening. Extremely complicated stuff happening. Very, very complicated as far as like you can sack this and move a counter here, and sack this and move a counter over there. A lot of really crazy like chess stuff going on. So kind of a cool limited card. Kind of a cool limited card. Yeah, goats do eat everything, right? Isn't that kind of the joke? Like, so why does it only eat artifact? I don't know. I don't really get it. But it is a lot. You know, 4 mana for a 2/2 is a lot of mana, but could definitely mess up combat. A card to watch for in limited, obviously. Pretty interesting card. Up next is Constable of the Realm. 5 mana for a giant soldier with Renown 2. Another weird mechanic, right? So Renown is a mechanic where if the creature does damage to a player and isn't renowned, you put 2 counters on it and it becomes renowned. So basically, once it gets through that first hit, it grows and gets better. And whenever one or more plus the most counters are put on Constable of the Realm, exile up to 1 other target non-land permanent until it leaves the battlefield. So the problem with this card in limited, obviously not a constructed card, in limited is it's a 5 mana 3/3 with no evasion, and it has to hit to do something, which is a huge, like, if it does hit, it's sort of like an Oblivion Ring, but that's not very good. That's not very good. So this card seems pretty bad. Just one of those cards that, like, too much has to happen for it to actually be good. So I imagine the draft decks in this format will be very, very powerful because the overall power level of this set is very, very high. So you can add counters to it in other ways, but you can't modular onto it. So kind of, you know, you can reinforce onto it, sure, it's kind of cool, but it's a lot of mana for a 3/3, and it needs a lot of extra help to do anything, so not super exciting. Up next is Disciple of the Sun, another 5 mana 3/3, which is weird, I guess. It's got lifelink, and it comes into play, you return a permanent card, mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to your hand. So this is basically a 3/3 lifelink version of Pillar Drop Rescuer from Strixhaven. So a very similar idea. Kind of a card it's card advantage, you know, it certainly works. Much better stabilizing body than a 2/2 flyer. It's a 3/3 lifelink is a pretty good blocker, but a card you're not always going to play in your draft deck. It's just like an okay card. Any permanent's kind of cool, but it's all right. It's just a kind of like draft filler kind of card. Up next is Esper Sentinel. No best in show? Okay, just checking. For those that don't know, we do a best in show for every color. So we're going to have 7 videos or 7 sections to this set review. All 5 colors, colorless, and multicolor. Best in show? No, not Esper Sentinel, but a very exciting card, though. So 1 mana for a 1/1. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, draw a card. Oh, so that player pays X, where X is Esper Sentinel's power. Few important things here. If this was a 1/1 regular creature that was like a gnome or something, it wouldn't be that exciting, because it's just a 1/1 for 1, you know, maybe a sideboard card, but this is an artifact and a human, 2 extremely valuable types in the modern format. You know, we can tap this with Venerated Locks it on. We can put Cranial Plating on this. We can sack it to Artbound Ravager. We can, bump it up with Thalia's Lieutenant. So this card's pretty real, and this is probably more of a sideboard card than a main deck card in Constructed. Obviously, if you're playing Commander, have a great time. Ristic Study, you get the idea. But in Modern, probably a little more of a sideboard card, but very, very reasonable. Very, very reasonable. You play this. If you draw one card off this, you're already above rate. So, and if it could do more than that, that's insane. So, definitely a very powerful card. Probably even better in Legacy because of how prevalent Brainstorming Friends are. But also the kind of card where you play against, mono-colored Stompy, or you play against, whatever, some creature deck or goblins or something like that. It doesn't actually do anything. So, definitely a pretty wide spread of how good this card's going to be, from basically nothing to insanely good. So possibly a sideboard card, but this card's going to see a lot of play across various formats. This card is pretty impressive. Yes, very good with Thalia, absolutely. I'm sure we'll see Thalia with this card in various decks as well. This is an impressive card. Definitely a cool card. If this card had stats that were a little bit better, it would be absolutely busted. But as it stands, it's still a 1/1 for 1, but a lot of synergy possibilities as well. Very good card. One of the best cards in white. In Limited, it's funny. This card's actually a lot worse in Limited because it's just like a lot less to do, more creatures and stuff. Also, your opponent will have more time to pay the tax here. But if you're playing this card, your goal is to grow it, if possible, be aggressive, and tax your opponent in other ways. And those are your goals of this card for sure. Very good card, though. Very good card in Esper Sentinel. Up next is Fairgrounds Patrol. Fairgrounds Patrol is a 2-mana, 2/1, which is reasonable. Pay 2, sack it, make a Thopter flying token from your graveyard. So you still like your solid bread and butter 2-drop. We've seen this card a lot. In Modern Horizons 1, it was Mother Bear, which is a 2/2. It made 2 bears for 5 mana out of the graveyard. That was busted. That card was really good. A 1/1 flyer for 2 is a little more reasonable. It's also only a 2/1. This is draft filler. This is the kind of card where it's fine. It's okay. You can play it. You can not play it. It's just okay. Just a fine draft common. Up next is Glorious Enforcer. 7 mana for a 5/5 flying lifelink. So pretty good top end card. Limited. Beginning of combat, if you have more life than an opponent, it gains double strike at the end of turns. This is your sort of, if our last card was your prototypical, filler 2-drop, this is your prototypical expensive win condition. 7 mana is a lot. 7 mana is a lot of freaking mana. But if you cast this card a game of Limited and untap with it, you're probably going to win the game on the spot. It blocks well. It's huge. Don't know the flashpoints of the format yet. It's important to note in Limited what the flashpoints are. For example, 5 toughness in Kaldheim was really important. Didn't die to Demon Bolt. A lot of things are 4/4s. 5 toughness also big in Strixhaven, honestly. A lot of 4/4s roaming around. So finding that flashpoint, if a lot of things deal 5, this card's not that good. It's fine, but not amazing. If a lot of things deal 4, this card's really, really good. So kind of a cool card. Those risk cards do look uncomfortable. I'm not really sure what those are exactly, but yeah, kind of just your top end limited kind of bomb. You have a slow deck, you do win condition, super reasonable. Well, it's important to note that the draft decks in this format are probably gonna be very synergy based. So these kinds of 7 mana bombs don't do as well in synergy formats because decks are faster and more cohesive and they want certain things, not just big cards. So probably less exciting than it looks. Up next is Guardian Kirin. 4 mana for a 2/3 flyer. Whenever a creature dies, put a counter on Guardian Kirin. So kind of a cool draft common, obviously very reasonable. With 1 counter on it, this card's very, very good. 2 counters on it, it's way above rate. If there's sort of sacrificing things going on, it could be definitely a thing. Just like a reasonable draft common, nothing really too fancy here. I thought that Kirins were spirits. Why is it actually a Kirin? Right? Like Celestial Kirin was like a spirit? I don't know. Up next is Healer's Flock. Get it? It's like 3 Healer's Hawks. You get it? No? Yeah, so of course, Llanowar Elite, the 3 Llanowar elves stapled together, was apparently one of the most popular cards in market research from Modern Horizons. Didn't really see any play constructed. Kind of a cool, fun, cute card. Just the concept of tribe, whatever, of 3 Llanowar elves stapled together was very amusing to people. Of course, it was a green, 3/3 with tap for 3 green. So this one is Healer's Flock. Of course, Healer's Hawk, very popular card on Arena especially. This is 3 Healer's Hawks in one. So if you can cast this card in your draft deck, it's going to be very, very good. A 3/3 flying lifelinker is way above rate for 3 mana. And lifelink is one of the best mechanics in Limited, honestly. A lot of Limited these days is pretty tempo heavy, pretty big on racing. And your flyer gaining life will win you races in a heartbeat. So pretty powerful card in Limited. You got to be able to cast it. But yeah, I want to see a Goblin Lack 3. Red, 3/3 goblin, deals damage, 3 triggers for lackey, but we'll see. Maybe next time. Maybe next time, all right? That's Healer's Flock. Up next is Knighted Mirror, 3 mana for a 2/2. It has Adapt, another weird, obscure ability, right? The Simic ability from whatever routing set that was. And 2/2 for 3, not super exciting. You pay 3 to adapt it. So basically, if it doesn't have a counter on it, you can pay the adapt ability, and it adds 1 counter to it. And it does have a helmet, yes. That little mirror's got a helmet on. And whenever 1 or more counters is put on to Knighted Mirror, it gains double strike until end of turn. Double strike is a thing, and of course, with modular being the thing in this format, obviously you can modular anything onto it, get double strike, keep doing that, which is kind of cool. So this is kind of limited common. It's like a little fragile on the front side when you just cast it, but if you're able to modular onto it, you can adapt it. A lot of cool things happening here. Definitely a major synergy card. A little soft when you first cast it, but definitely interesting things you can do with it. Kind of a cool draft card, we'll see. Yes, this entire series will be on YouTube. The whole thing. So anything you miss will be on YouTube. Of course, probably on for about 6 hours today. It's a long series, but every single card, definitely something to binge watch, and look for anything else on YouTube, right? And no, this is not the Odyssey planes. This is the Modern Horizons planes. They picked a lot of cool old lands to reprint, which is super cool. Up next, we have Landscaper Colos, 6 mana for a 4/6. When it comes into play, put target card from an opponent's graveyard at the bottom of the library. Basic land cycling 2. So limited mana fixer. Not super exciting. A little bit of graveyard hate. A pretty mediocre body for 6 mana. Just okay. Just okay if you need a mana fixer unlimited. Again, synergy formats are a little more tight. So usually not splashing and stuff like that. So not a very exciting card. Not a very exciting card. Up next is Late to Dinner. From the folks that brought you bacon to a pie, it's late for dinner. 4 mana sorcery. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Create a food token. So this is just Breath of Life or Resurrection. This is a white reanimation spell, white zombify, and you also get a food. So not a ton of extra bonus here. There are obviously better reanimation spells in Modern, but kind of a fun limited card. Of course, if there are big land cyclers or cycling cards, you cycle this thing on 2, bring it back on 4. That's not too bad. That's not too bad, So kind of a cute limited card. Obviously very fun and flavorful, making it food. Tokens are a thing in the set. There are clues and treasures and foods. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So Bjorn and Man, thank you for the resubs. And Agent, appreciate it. You're all great. Yes. It also makes artifact for artifact synergies. Very important to note. Clues, treasures, and foods are artifacts, and that matters a lot. It's material to go into play, help your synergies. Pretty cool. Up next is Lens Flare. Get it? The more artifacts you have, you get it? Lens Flare, 5 mana instant, affinity for artifacts. Ooh, I love affinity. Affinity's great. Lens Flare does 5 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. So these sort of damage to attackers or blockers cards are always like, they're fine and limited. They're pretty easy to play around. Not super exciting. It is the J.J. Abrams Invitational card. And Karn is here to let everyone know that he is here. So, excuse me. Karn's in the living room now. So, Barbed Gargoyle, of course, the one white pump toughness mechanic. Very, very popular in Magic's history. And just an awful mechanic. Just like so underpowered compared to basically anything else. So, not a very exciting card. Just kind of a fringe common. It is a good thing to modular onto, but pretty fillery limited card. We're pretty past the point of a Windrake being a good limited card. At this point, I think Windrakes are actively bad limited cards. So, not very exciting. Not very exciting. Next up is Nyxos Paragon. We have an enchantment creature. 6 mana for a 4/6 enchantment creature, human soldier. Whenever you gain life, you may put that many +1/+1 counters on each creature you control only once a turn. So you have this card in play. You cast a...
Oh, it's Lightning Helix! Oh my god!
All your stuff gets +3/+3. Limited bomb, of course, because this card wins the game if you untap with it. But for constructed, a 6 mana card doesn't affect the board, and Modern is not really passable. Commander maybe for sure. Very, very powerful effect, but just not super exciting. Not super exciting. Up next is Out of Time, a card that is exciting. White, white, and 1 for an enchantment. When Out of Time enters the battlefield, untap all creatures, and then phase them out until out of time leaves the battlefield. Put a time counter on out of time for each creature phased out this way. So this card's pretty wild. This is basically a time-sensitive wrath effect that gets better and better the more stuff is in play, right? So say I have 5 goblins in play, and my opponent casts this card. All the goblins phase out, and then it gets 5 time counters. In 5 turns, they'll all come back. So this card is specifically very good against multiple wide boards. It also is cool for your own stuff, although please note it's a phase, not a blink. So when you phase something out, when it comes back in, it does not trigger any end of the battlefield effects. So if I have a wall of omens and I phase it out, you will not draw a card when it comes back in, which would be kind of cool, obviously. So if I had like wall, bounce all their stuff, blink my stuff, it doesn't work like that. But still a pretty cool card. Can you phase tokens? I think you can, and I think they come back, but I'm honestly not sure. Judge, help me out, Judge. Phasing is a weird mechanic. It's really, really old, too. So, kind of a cool card. Being an enchantment's kind of cool. There is an enchantress theme in the set. It's only 1 mana cheaper than an actual wrath effect, which is, a thing, obviously. My opponent has 2 Tarmogoyfs. Like, would I rather have this or a wrath? Because they'll come back pretty quick. But kind of cool. Definitely kind of pillow 40, definitely kind of thing. The tokens do phase and come back. All counters remain. So, it's not like you can reset a Hangerback Walker with this. It's not like you can, get rid of a token with this. So they just kind of pretend they don't exist, and then they come back. So really fun card. Definitely 3 mana Wrath is kind of cool. Cool sideboard card. Maybe a main deck card, like some sort of enchantress deck. Definitely kind of cool. Definitely kind of cool. Things coming back is weird. You can stifle the last effect. No, you can't. I think you can stifle the last effect. So I believe you can stifle the trigger that would make everything. No, you can't. No, you can't. So this has the newer like banishing light wording. So you can stifle one of the banishing triggers, but you can't stop things from coming back because them coming back is attached to them leaving. So once this thing leaves the battlefield, they have to come back no matter what. So out of time. Solemnity, can they remain face out forever? Maybe. This is kind of a cool pillow 4 card, kind of like a build an enchantment wall and stuff like that. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, pretty interesting card. Limited, probably not, but kind of a cool constructed card. Up next is Piercing Rays, 2 mana for a sorcery. Exile target tap creature. It's an okay effect, limited, good defensive effect. And you can forecast it. So forecast is another weird mechanic where you can only pay visibility during your upkeep and once a turn. 3 mana to reveal it, and then tap an untapped creature. So, kind of cool. Obviously, you can use this. You can tap a thing and kill it later. You can tap a blocker. So, kind of cool, but like it's useful defensively and offensively, but not super exciting. More of a defensive card still in general. Definitely, it's kind of like a draft, middling draft common. Up next is Prismatic Ending. This card's actually awesome. This card is quite powerful. 1 white and X. It has the ability Converge, another weird old mechanic. Exile target non-land permanent if its mana value is less than or equal to the number of colors of mana spent to cast this spell. So, at 1 white, you can exile any 1 mana permanent, which is pretty good. I mean, Aether Vial, Death Shadow, Relic Representatives, I don't know, whatever. That's certainly reasonable. Goblin Guide, etc. Noble Hierarch, etc., etc. At 2 mana, you can exile anything that costs 2, so Tarmogoyf and so on and so forth. Then 3, then 4, so very flexible. The fact that you can have a card that can kill Goblin Guide for 1 mana on turn 1, and then also exile Jace the Mind Sculptor for 4 mana on turn 4, that's pretty cool. I think this card's quite good. It's a little slow, but very, very, very flexible. I think this card is excellent. Can exile Chalice of the Void. It is less than or equal to, you're correct. This can kill Chalice of the Void too, which is pretty cool. And of course, there's no way to lock this card out from Chalice because they put Chalice on 1, just cast it for 2. They put Chalice on 2, cast it for 1, and so on and so forth. So, even if they have Chalice on 1 and 2, you cast it for 3. So, pretty cool. Very, very cool card. I think this card will see a lot more play than you expect. This is like probably my biggest sleeper in white. I think this card's really, really cool. Phenomenal limited, obviously, because Exile is great too. But yeah, there are a lot of 4-color decks in the format, a lot of 5-color decks. 3-color decks, but I think this card's super, super solid. I like this card a lot. Not gonna be like it's not gonna be like the Noop at the Exile or something like that, but definitely a very flexible card that can see play for sure. Definitely like it a lot. Probably better in slower decks, you know, more like sorcery speed decks than instant speed decks, but super cool. Super cool. Up next is Resurgent Belief. We have a new cycle, I think 2 cycles actually, of the suspend no mana cost cards from Time Spiral. So these are usually very, very powerful old effects that you cannot play unless you suspend them. Suspend means you put it in exile, put counters on it, and then it will be cast later on. So this suspends for 2 mana for 2. So you pay 2 mana, exile with 2 counters on it, upkeep, remove a counter, upkeep, remove a counter, it gets cast. So this is Replenish. Return all enchantment cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. So Replenish, of course, very, very powerful effect. I think it was banned in some formats at some point. Replenish was a 4 mana sorcery. So this only costs 2, and it goes off the same turn you would cast Replenish. Returning all enchantments is insane. Of course, it is pretty, you know, beatable with either enchantment removal or graveyard hate, things like that. But very powerful card. I don't know if you want to build your enchantment deck to be kind of graveyardy, but very, very powerful card. Of course, you can cast this card off of Cascades or with As Foretold as well. But yeah, definitely an interesting one for sure. Powerful effect to add to the format. The kind of card where like it might not do anything, but it is very powerful. So could definitely see things. As Foretold is an enchantment. Of course, blue can discard things. So kind of a cool card. Very, very powerful. Would have a home. That remains to be seen. But kind of a cool card to have access to. Up next is Sanctifier envec. White. For a pro black and red creature. When it enters the battlefield, exile all cards that are black or red from all graveyards. If a black or red permanent spell or card, if a black or red permanent spell or card not on the battlefield will be put into a graveyard, exile it instead. So gross sideboard card here. Hits dredge. It hits burn sort of. Not really. Like pro red is fine, but pretty gross sideboard card. A little hard to cast. It is a human though. This will exile all the bloodghasts, exile your conflagrates, exile all of your prized amalgams and so on and so forth, and then permanent spell or card not in the battlefield. So and then you can't dredge any of those for the rest of the game. So pretty gross sideboard card for dredge. There's a lot of powerful sideboardy kind of cards for a lot of the linear decks in the format. We'll see. You know, dredge. Tron, etc. You know, a lot of powerful cards against decks like that, which I do think it is good to kind of push the more interactive part of the format. But cards like this are really, really like ham-fisted. It's just like, sorry, dredge. And it's funny at the same time, it might just be too slow. If they cast Cathartic turn 2 into play and put 14 power in play, you're going to lose anyway. So, kind of a polarizing card. Is it better than Rest in Peace against dredge? Probably not. However, a card, I think like humans can cast it. Obviously, they can't cast Rest in Peace. So, very powerful sideboard card. Is it better than other options? Maybe, but definitely a powerful one. And limited, obviously not super great. Scour the Desert. Ooh, tasty. 5 mana sorcery. Exile target creature card from your graveyard. Make X on flying bird tokens, where X is the exiled card's toughness. That's kind of cool. Honestly, cool limited card. So we have that land cycler from earlier, 6 mana land cycler. Exile that, they make 6 1/1s. It's a very, very powerful effect for 5 mana. Kind of a cool draft card for sure. Definitely, you're gonna want ways to get cards in your graveyard, but pretty cool. Very cool art too. I agree. The art in this card is very, very a little trippy, but kind of really cool. So kind of cool. Kind of a cool card. Cool draft card. Gotta be contextual to your draft deck, but can be very, very, very good. Up next is Search the Premises. Inspectors inspecting. 4 mana for an enchantment. Whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, investigate. So this is more of a commander card. Not going to see play in Modern at all, of course. In Commander, with multiple players, a good Rattlesnake card at the proper turn. Proper turn? Right? To keep people from attacking you, telling them to attack someone else. Kind of cute. Clues are not drawn cards or treasures, so it does cost a lot of mana to actually like crack the clues and so on and so forth. And your opponent has the option to not attack you, of course. But yeah, it's definitely a cute commander card. Obviously, it has Inspector on it, which is kind of cool, but kind of a cute commander card. I don't think this card's good and limited unless you're like really, really hard on enchantments or other good defensive stuff. But it's cool. It's cool. Up next is Sarah's Emissary, a mythic. 4 mana, white, creature angel. When it comes to the comes into play, you choose a card type. You and creatures you control have protection from the chosen card type. I mean, if you can get a lot of them, that's kind of cool, right? But it's okay. I mean, like, what are you naming? So you play against Burn, you name Instant. I mean, that's pretty good, but like, you could just ram it Iona instead, you know? So like, it's okay. I mean, like, I don't think this card is better than any of the other reanimator cards available. Not really castable, so I don't know. Like, I probably kind of have a cool commander card also, but not super exciting. You know, naming pro creatures is good, but like, yeah, I guess it's good against, you know, humans or whatever. But like, there are ways to deal with it. I guess specifically against humans, because all their ways to remove it are reflector mage, things like that. But I don't know. It's just kind of not a super exciting card. In limited, totally busted if you can cast it, obviously. Yeah. Naming creatures in limited is probably unbeatable. But, so, limited bomb, commander card. Humans can't play Path, so they can't cast it. They have all the multicolored lands. Up next is Skyblade's Boon. 2 mana for enchant creature. Plus +1 in flying. And you return it to its owner's hand if it's on the battlefield or in the graveyard. So, pretty cool aura here. Plus +1 in flying is certainly reasonable. And if it's ever in the graveyard, you can get it back. Or you can bounce it from your creature back to your hand or cast it somewhere else, which is kind of cool. Solid draft card if you're an aggro deck looking to get through. Solid draft card. Up next is Solitude. Solitude. Our best in show for white Solitude. So there is a new cycle of pitch cards. Of course, cards that allow you to exile a card from your hand and play them for free. So, of course, the Force cycle in Modern Horizons 1 gave us Force of Negation, gave us Force of Vigor. And in this set, they are creatures. They are elemental creatures with the Evoke ability. Evoke is an ability where every elemental with Evoke has some sort of enter the battlefield ability. And the Evoke cost is less than the mana cost, typically, and allows you to play the creature, and then it dies immediately, but you still get the enters the battlefield effect, right? So, for example, Shriekmaw, 5 mana creature, you can pay 2, evoke it, kill a creature, and then it just dies. So, 2 mana for a Doomblade, 5 mana for a comes into play, kill a creature. So, Solitude is 5 mana for a 3/2 flying flash lifelink, which is pretty good, honestly. That's, you know, a solid body as far as a backup plan. You can, when it enters the battlefield, you exile up to 1 other target creature. That creature's controller gains life equal to its power. And you can pitch a white card to cast it for free. So instant speed, Swords to Plowshares, Swords to Plowshare, Force of Will, etc. kind of card. Now, this is good for a lot of reasons. A lot of the things that happen in Modern, a lot of the broken things, are based around, you know, creatures not being able to interact, things like that. So, for example, they envec kill you on turn 2. This can answer that. If they go to Through the Breach and Emrakul, this is one of the few cards that can actually deal with Emrakul the Aeon's Torn. Because it is not an instant, not a spell, and you get to just exile the Emrakul. They gain 15 life, but you don't lose the game. So, pretty good trade-off here. It is card disadvantage, which is cool. So, this kind of card and the cards like it are good at stopping broken things. If your opponent's going to put 4 or 5 cards into a combo that would kill you on turn 3, you force it, and the game ends because they were to use all the resources. So kind of similar to, think about a Goblin Charbelcher deck. You know, playing all the rituals and trying to Goblin Charbelch you, and you force it, and they lose because you also mind twisted them, basically. So, that's powerful. This card is mostly going to be good against those kind of unfair things. It does kill that shadow, which is pretty funny. But I imagine this card's not going to be great against decks that are playing Thoughtseize, a fair strategy. So you want to 2-for-1 yourself. However, there are some fair things you can do with this card. So you can, of course, just cast it, because it really isn't that ridiculous to cast. I mean, a 3/2 lifelinker flash for 5 exiles things is not too bad. And then most importantly, the most important card when it comes to these elemental pitch evoke cards is Ephemerate. Ephemerate's a 1 mana instant. It blinks a creature, and then it has rebound from Modern Horizons 1. So on turn 1, in theory, say they go Land Noble Hierarch, and you go Land Go. And they go, you know, Land, Tarmogoyf, whatever. Just play 2 creatures. You can untap on your turn. Or you can actually, on their turn, you can go free cast Solitude with the evoke trigger on the stack, pay 1 white, Ephemerate it, which will blink it, It'll come back into play. It'll kill another creature. And now, because you didn't evoke it this time, this is a new version of a Solitude, it will stay in play as a 3/2 lifelinker, which is huge. Undying Evil can do that. The white spell land, Malachar Rebirth can do that. So there are a number of ways you can turn one, pitch these, and then get them back immediately. And that's pretty powerful. Pretty powerful. So we will see here. This is my best in show. I believe this card is more useful as a defensive measure against broken decks, similar to the way a Force of Negation is for spell decks. But I can imagine this card seeing play in more fair decks as well. But probably one of the most important cards in the set as far as like, it may not see play in every deck, but this card will change how the format is played because you now have an answer to Emrakul. Now you have that answer to that turn 2 envec kill and so on and so forth. So powerful card. My best in show for white. I think the best in show for every color. Up next is Soul of Migration. 7 mana, 2/4 flyer. Comes into play, makes you 1/1s, evoke for 4. Your more traditional evoke card here is 4 mana for 2 tokens or 7 mana for a bunch of stuff. Kind of like your solid limited card here, looking for a big, flashy end game card. It's also reasonable early. Just a solid draft card. Solid draft card. Up next is Threatman Watcher, which is a 4 mana for a 2/2 flying vigilance. Other non-token creatures you control have +1/+1 in vigilance. Solid aggro card. Solid draft card for sure. Vigilance and pump is very, very good. And it is non-token, which is a little bit different, but solid draft card for sure. Not amazing. Definitely very fragile, but yes, always watching is the enchantment. This is the same thing. Up next is Timeless Dragon. So Eternal Dragon gets a glow up here. Eternal Dragon was one of the most played cards in Standard and Extended for a long time, and it is so out of date. That card got cut from my cube about 9 years ago. That's how outdated it is. And this is the new version of it. So 5 mana for a 5/5 flyer. It's fine. Plane cycling is 2. 2 mana cycle, get a planes. And now this can get non-basic planes, so Hallowed Fountain, so on and so forth. And then you can eternalize it. So Eternal Dragon, you could pay 5 in your upkeep to get it back to your hand. Just to get it back to your hand. That's it. This, you can pay 4 mana and turn it into a 4/4 dragon. That's pretty good. So eventually this is a cantripping 4/4 for 4 that can do other things as well. Magic's basically gotten past this card for now. This card's probably not good enough for Modern. Maybe it was an Astral Drift deck that can use this card, but probably not. It's just kind of a cool throwback. It's pretty fun. Busted and limited. Just busted and limited. But kind of a fun throwback, kind of a cool card. Timeless Dragon. Up next is Unbounded Potential. 2 mana for an instant. Choose one. Put a +1/+1 counter on each of the 2 target creatures. Or Proliferate. And as Entwine, another really old, obscure mechanic where with Entwine, you choose both. So 2 mana modal spell, pick one or the other. Pay the Entwine cost, you get both instead. So this card's pretty powerful. Of course, with Modular being a major mechanic, +1/+1 counters at a premium. And a lot of things we saw already that go off of counters. And then Proliferate, also good. You can pump the team. And then at an Entwine here, we're looking at a minimum, +2/+2 on 2 creatures at instant speed for 4 mana. That's pretty good. So not a card you'll want a ton of, but a really, really solid trick and limited. Real good top end for a counter deck. Real good top end for a modular deck. Pretty powerful card. And now we have the reprints. So one of the cool things about Modern Horizons also, aside from giving us new cards, is we get a small selection of reprints from Magic's history. And those get to get put into the Modern format, which is awesome. Really, really cool. Unfortunately, Angelic Curator, not one of the most exciting ones here. This card is mostly unplayable in basically everything. But maybe a sideboard card in drafts, whatever. But it's cute. It's cute. Our next reprint, new to Modern card, is Karmic Guide. Popular cube card for a long time. Definitely a card we're going to see a decent amount in Protean Hulk loops and other combo loops. 5 mana for a 2/2, pro black flying. Has Echo 5, but you got to be able to pay for it again the next turn. But when it comes into play, use zombie by a creature. So you can use this, body double, sacrifice outlets, and kind of, loop things with Protean Hulk. More on that later. It's an okay draft card. It's like not great, but limited. I mean, constructed. This card will do some very specific things, maybe. But yeah, you'll probably post parts of Protean Hulk combos, things like that. Up next is Seal of Cleansing, which is kind of cool. We already have Seal of Primordium in the format. Now as a white version, also very good with Luris. Solid sideboard card. Nothing too fancy here. Pretty cool. Oh boy.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Solitary Confinement. I'm not sure why they felt the need to put this card into the modern format. This was a major card in Extended for a long time. Pretty frustrating card. So, Confinement in play. You don't draw a card. You have Shroud, can't be targeted, and all damage that would be dealt to you is prevented. So, kind of card you sit behind and you just can't lose the game, but the game also never ends. The downside is every turn, discard a card. So, Squee is legal. You discard Squee. And then the Enchantress decks that would play this card, they just draw so many cards typically that they keep going. Now, there are cards like Questing Beast. Stomp works. You can stomp your own creature, and then they can stop that too. Life Loss gets around it. You know, Thassa's Oracle, ways to win the game. There are ways to beat this card for sure. But when it works, if you can't remove it, it's sort of like Ensnaring Bridge. It's like this really annoying card that sometimes your deck just can't beat, and you're like, all right. And Flaring Pain, for some reason, not in this Modern Horizons, is pretty frustrating. That's the card I used to use back in the day. Back in my day when I used to play Goblins, you had to understand that we didn't have any way to remove Solitary Confinement. So what do? We turned to a card called Flaring Pain, which would stop damage from being prevented. Also really good against Moments Piece. So yeah, pretty annoying card. Sterling Grove also legal. We'll get to that too. But yeah, kind of an annoying card. We'll see. Solitary Confinement. If you pull this off unlimited, send me a screenshot because I want to see it. All right. Up next is Soul Snare. This is a card I didn't even know existed. It's a commander card. Another Rattlesnake card. 1 white enchantment. Pay a white, sack it, exile attacking creature, and this probably won't see play. I mean, it's just a little too. It's worse than Path to Exile and Friends, but. Commander card, kind of cute. Solid draft card, but, you know. That's it. That's white. So a lot of cards in a set. A lot of words to go over. Pretty cool. You can use it with Luris, sure. I mean, your opponent can also just not attack you. You know, like, that's also fine, too. But possibly an Enchantress kind of thing. But I don't think this card's that great. It's just, like, it's okay. It's okay. So, that's white. Of course, YouTube folks, I love you. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know a card you think is your best in show. And we have 6 other sections to go through. All the colors. We just started watching on Twitch. YouTube folks, I love you. Like, comment, subscribe. Check my sponsors, coolstuffinc.com and friends. And I love you. Thanks for watching, folks.